Shri Shri Madhi's Divine Grace, Abhay Chandna Ravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki, Anant Koti Vaishnavrinda ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधारा श्री वसुदेव गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की वृंदावन धाम की मथुरा धाम की नवदीप धाम की श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी की यमुना माई की श्रीमती तुलसी देवी की सामवेद भक्त वृंद की निताई गौर प्रेमानंदी. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Pastai Bhutle Srimate Bir Krishna Goswami Niti Namne Namo Hamsa Nikashaya Prabhupada Priyate Shuddhidda Shuddhinishtabem Tasya Vakyan Vadine. Good morning and Hare Krishna to everyone. Hare Krishna to all our Mayapur online TV viewers and ISKCON Sydney YouTube and also on Facebook. Thank you for your ongoing love and support and your feedback. I'm praying this morning for Srila Prabhupada's blessings and strength to be able to impart some of his mercy to you. This morning we are going to be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 23, and the texts are 14, 15, and 16. The title of this chapter is Devahuti's Lamentation. Just the background, Kardama Muni, who is a very highly elevated sage, had expressed a desire to get married, and Lord Krishna, being his Lord, and Kardama Muni, being a very pure devotee, received the benediction of Lord Krishna arranging a marriage for him with none other than Swayambhuva, Manu's daughter, Devahuti. And Devahuti was a highly pious and chaste lady. And she had not done the same austerities as her husband, but just because she married him, received all the spiritual benefits the same as her husband. And automatically, this we were talking about it in our last class, how Lord Krishna looks at the equality of life partners. In the material law, we know when there is a marriage, the 50-50% goes one to the wife, one to the husband. But in Lord Krishna's jurisdiction, in Lord Krishna's spiritual law, Devahuti gets all of the spiritual benefits of her husband. So she had transcendental vision, and she had all the benedictions that come across if one has performed such pious and austere activities. So much to the point that you will read later on that the Lord himself becomes her son. So such is the association of somebody who is so elevated and powerful, pure devotee of the Lord. So this morning, I think the first text that we have has no purport. I will simply read it, and then 16 is the one that's written on the board. We will recite that together. So text 14, Divyo Pakaranau Metram, Sarvakala Sukhavaham, Patika Bhir, Pataki Bhir, Vichitra Bhir Alankritam, Srag Bhir Vichitra Mai Labhir, Manjush Nirat, Sad Angri Bihi, Dukula Shoma, Kaushiyar, Nana Vastrayar Virajitam. So the translation of this is, the castle was fully equipped with all necessary paraphernalia, and it was pleasing in all seasons. It was decorated all around with flags, festoons, and artistic work of variegated colors. It was further embellished with wreaths of charming flowers that attracted sweetly humming bees, and with tapestries of linen, silk, and various other fabrics. So this is describing the castle that Kardama Muni had constructed, basically had manifested for his dear wife. Now, Kardama Muni was a very humble sage. he was not opulent, but because of his austerities and purity, he was able to develop that. Now, all these castles and things it's described, it was not on a land, it was like on a viman, it was like an airplane. It was huge with gardens and castles and everything. So much opulence he was able to produce for his wife. So continuing from there is text 16, which we will go over since it's written on the board. So, Upari upari vinyasta Nilayeshu prithak prithak Shiptai kashipubhi kantam Paryanka Vyajanasanai Upari Upari Vinyasta Nilayeshu Prithak Prithak Shiptai Kashipubhi Kantam Paryanka Vyajanasanai Upari pari vinayasta Nilayeshu prithak prithak Shiptai kashipubhi kantam Paryanka vyajanasanai Upari pari vinyasta Nilayeshu prithak prithak Shiptai kashipubhi kantam Paryanka vyajanasanai Upari upari vinyasta Nilayeshu prithak prithak Shiptai kashipubhi kantam Vyajanasanai Upari upari vinyasta Nilayeshu prithak prithak Shiptai kashipubhi kantam Paryanka vyajanasanai Upari upari vinyasta Nilayeshu prithak prithak Shiptai kashipubhi kantam Paryanka vyajanasanai. Okay, so the words and their meanings. Upari upari, one upon another. Vinyasta, placed. Nilayeshu, in stories. Prithak prithak, separately. Shiptai, arranged. Kashipubhi, with beds. Kantam, charming. Paryanka, couches. Vyajana, fans. Asanai, with seats. Okay, so that's the description. The Palace, translation by N. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Okay, so the translation of this verse reads, the palace looked charming, with beds, couches, fans, and seats, all separately arranged in 7 stories. So we can all repeat. The palace looked charming, with beds, couches, fans and seats, all separately arranged in 7 stories. Okay, so the purport. It is understood from this verse that the castle had many stories. The words Upari Upari Vinayasta indicate that skyscrapers are not newly invented. Even in those days, millions of years ago, the idea of building many-storied houses was current. They contained not merely 1 or 2 rooms, but many different apartments. And each was completely decorated with cushions, bedsteads, seating places, and carpets. So, Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swa Padantikam. Vande Ham Shri Gurum Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha. Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deen Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is a very interesting text. It describes how, at what lengths Kardama Muni had gone to accommodate his wife. And that's how a good husband should be. He should try to provide all these things. It is said here that in those days they had those apartments, so probably better than ours. Mind you, there is like something similar, like in other universes, like our Earth, our planet Earth. It looks very similar to the Earth on another universe and another universe, and they have similar buildings too. So, except that what I had seen, I did have a vision because I had a question. That there's another Earth, what does it look like? So by Krishna's grace, I did see a little bit. The place is larger, the planet Earth is larger, but it looks the same, just the same. And the buildings are the same that we have here, except the materials they had, the buildings was nicer. I couldn't see any glass windows though. They had very interesting looking windows, but it was the same, the streets and everything was the same. So back in those days, according to, let's stick to the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said here that even then they had skyscrapers or high-rise buildings. Now, it was earlier described also that Devavati was playing a ball on one of her high-rise building homes. That's where she was. And the Gandharva, who was flying in an airplane, saw her, and he fell off his plane. So it was suggested back then even that they had this high-rise building, so interesting civilization. Now, this suggests, obviously, that they were all living in opulence. They had a lot of opulence. Now, Kardama Muni, he was... before he married, he was just a sage in a hermitage. So just like you are brahmacharis, you are in a temple and you are in an ashram. So that was a similar condition, Kardama Muni also. So when the emperor of the entire, that particular universe, Swayambhuva Manu went, he was going to a very humble sage and offering his princess in the marriage, her hand in marriage. Devahuti had accepted. And now look at how he has manifested the opulence for his dear wife. So I thought in this class today, because there's a lot of description, this purport is descriptive on how it looks and how wonderful it looks, but I thought let me talk about a little bit about opulence and how it affects us, and what should be our attitude towards opulence, and who gets opulence. Like for example, here you can see Kardama Muni. He was living as a sage in a habitat, just like an ashram, very simple. Yet, he suddenly developed all these opulences, skyscrapers. I mean, can we make one high-rise building tomorrow? I know I can't. Maybe you might have the the power to do it. I certainly don't. So how did he get it? That's my question. That's the point. How did he? Now we have some devotees in our movement, not some, many. They have a lot of resources. How did they get their resources? How did they get their money? Now, if I were to ask you that question, number one answer will be, let me have an answer. How did they get their opulence? Some of the devotees, those rich ones, how did they get their money? Krishna give them, that's number one answer, it's 100% correct. What did they do to get that money from Krishna? Yes? Correct, yes. So you know the answers. I'm just going to quote where those references are given. So our devotees, they got their opulence because first of all it was the wish of Krishna. Krishna gave it to them. Krishna doesn't give willy-nilly to anyone. He doesn't. Some of us don't get it, others do. Now the reason is being said, one of us is the karma. They've done some previous life's karma. Pious deeds. Now what is pious deeds? We need to define it a little bit better. What is a pious deed? What do you mean by being pious? Pious means being in devotional service to the Lord Krishna in a very sincere, humble mood. That's pious deed. It doesn't just mean kindness. Of course, a lot of it means kindness. You be kind to people. Now, but piety means that you've been a devotee of Lord Krishna and in service of Krishna, devotional service of Krishna. So you gain this pious, you gain piety. And because of that, you get the opulence in the next life or other lives. Now that's one. Second reason is for devotional service. Krishna gives opulence for some reason. Now the biggest example we have right now currently is who? Ambarish Prabhu, right? In Mayapur. He's building $100 million temple. He's very pious. He is. But he's been given that opulence so that we can have a temple like that in Mayapur, which will last us 10,000 years. Now, that's a reason why he's been given. And it won't be given to anyone and everyone. It's given to those people who can actually handle it. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about the devotee's attitude towards this opulence. Like, for example, I'll take myself as an example because I don't want anybody to pinpoint on anyone. But say that I didn't get that much opulence. The reason is that. Why didn't I get it? And he got it or she got it. The reason is that I could easily be swayed by my opulence and I may not be able to deliver that kind of service that is required. So your internal qualities matter in a very high regard. So one of the examples of such a person is someone that we've been reading about in the Srimad Bhagavatam all along, is Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj has a lot of opulence, but he didn't care any for it. He didn't care for all he cared about was his kingdom and the people, the welfare of the citizens, the welfare of the animals. He was even concerned when Dharma, the bull, was being bitten by the personality of Kali. So he didn't give any importance to his opulence. That is the attitude of a pure devotee. So now, currently, we have one devotee in our movement that I know personally has a lot of resources. By that means opulence, using it for Krishna, totally. And in Guru's service, 100%. Now, we are very grateful to this person because this person could have used their opulence to apply it somewhere else. Millions of dollars could have applied somewhere else. They didn't do that. They chose selflessly to make sure that the Guru's service is being kept, make sure that the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement is spread, make sure that the Rath Yatra goes, if they need some Lakshmi on the spot. Such should be the heart of every devotee. There are many devotees who are misers too. And there are many karmis who will not have the compassion in their heart to give a single cent, even though they have millions and millions in their bank accounts. They don't care. So Krishna gives that much to someone who has the quality in the heart within themselves to apply this. That's why they're given this much opulence. And what is our duty towards such people? If you see, what is our attitude towards, say, Ambarish Prabhu? We offer our obeisances to him. We are eternally grateful to him. Why? Because his abilities and his input and his contribution to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement will deliver thousands, millions and millions of souls to the next 10,000 years. And we are eternally grateful, and that should be our attitude to someone who has contributed that much. Does that mean then we give less respect to, say, somebody who's washing pots in the kitchen, or Krishna? No, it doesn't. So that brings us to this story where Lord Ram's bridge was being built, right? Hanuman was throwing big boulders, Hanumanji. And then there was a spider who was throwing some dust. And Hanuman said, "Get out of my way. You're not giving any contribution." And Lord Ram said, "No, he is contributing to his ability, and you are doing according to yours." So Lord Krishna doesn't see. He doesn't see the contribution. He sees everyone as equal. However, as devotees, we must give respect to those who are utilizing their opulences in service of the Guru and Gauranga. And that's why we bend over backwards to accommodate them. So if such a person came to me for help or has expressed a need to continue with a certain project, I have my full blessings and full support in my capacity. And that is how I look at it, and that is how all the devotees should look at it. To be able to give appreciation to such people who are devoted to Prabhupada's mission. So without further ado, let me read something from the Srimad Bhagavatam that will shed some further light on how devotees feel about these opulences. So first of all, it's written here, devotees of God can accept all kinds of opulence in service of God. What does that mean? So if I say, "Prabhu, here's a Ferrari," what are you going to say? Use it in Krishna's service, even if it is a Ferrari. But are you going to, that question then remains, are you really going to use it in Krishna's service? So it is my intelligence that I should give that Ferrari to someone who will really use it for Krishna's service. So in the Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapters 1 to 6. So I'll read about Bhagavad Gita 1.2, 3.2 to 3.5, the translation and purport. Govinda, of what avail to us, this is Arjun, he tells Lord Krishna, Govinda, what avail are to us are a kingdom, happiness, or even life itself, when all those we may desire them are now arrayed in the battlefield. O Madhusudan, when teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers-in-law, grandsons, brothers-in-law, and other relatives are ready to give up their lives, and properties are standing before me, why should I wish to kill them, even though they might otherwise kill me? O maintainer of living entities, I am not prepared to fight with them, even in exchange for the 3 worlds.